As we all know by now, it's no secret that the Chicago Bulls have been featured heavily in the trade rumor mill. And as the trade deadline is just a month away, I wanted to talk about this article I came across on USA Today, citing all the players that could be or should be available on every single team, and a lot of them featured were on the Chicago Bulls. This is your host, Joey Mercer, and this is another episode of Bulls Digest. And before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 88% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure to go down below, hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and you'll be notified every time we upload, and you'll be able to stay up to date with your Chicago Bulls. So without further ado, buckle up, get ready. There's a lot to talk about there today, and let's get into the topic at hand, which is trade suitor bonanza. So yes, not only are we going to talk about the players that the Chicago Bulls should have up on the block or already do, but we're going to talk about other teams and who they have available to see what players could be available for the Chicago Bulls to acquire, maybe at a lesser value because they haven't been performing well or on bigger contracts or just aren't very happy with their situation. So the article I'm citing, I did say at the top, was from USA Today, but it is by Jeff Zilgit. Says, as NBA trade rumors start to swirl, here's who could get moved before the 2024 deadline. This really piqued my interest because, of course, we've been doing a lot of talking about this on this channel when it comes to the Chicago Bulls and even a few other teams being involved with the Bulls. The first player, of course, was Chicago Bulls guard Zach Lavine. There's the picture of him right there, of course. He has to be a headliner on this because who has been talked more than Zach Lavine? That's nobody. He's been the most talked about trade asset in the league right now, and it's no shocker to see him right here at the top. This is what they had to say. Teams looking for offense that include the Lakers are interested in Zach Lavine and his availability. Lavine averages 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, and shoots 44% from the field and about 34% on three-pointers and 87% on free throws. A talented scorer, he has played in just 18 games this season, out since November 28th with right foot inflammation. Lavine is in the second year of a 5-year, $215.1 million contract. So that's the biggest thing there, is the health and the contract. It's not the defense. I mean, we have talked about the defense, but I think teams would be able to get over that hump if they really needed a spark plug to come in and score a lot of baskets in their starting lineup. The defense is not that much if you're looking for that sort of a guy on offense. The contract, however, in just the second year, and it's a lot of money for Zach Lavine, I will even agree as a big Bulls fan. But on top of that, the injuries, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He came in injured, actually, to the Bulls in that Jimmy Butler trade, and he's been kind of up and down with that. He seems to stay healthy for a good period of time, and then the injury bug comes and strikes him again. So that's been the biggest knock on Zach Lavine, although he still does have a good trade value in my opinion. Next player was Chicago Bulls guard DeMar DeRozan. At 34, DeMar DeRozan can still score, posting 22 points per game on 46% shooting from the field and 33 on threes. Add his 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and a steal, and nearly 1 block per game, and DeRozan has value. He had 27 points on 12 for 16 shooting, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds in Chicago's December 20th victory against the Lakers. He was in the final season of a 3-year, $81 million contract and is a free agent in the summer. So that's something, if you're looking for a team that needs to make that extra push, DeMar could be a player to suit them just fine. The last year of the contract, you do it this year, you have no negotiations to make in the offseason unless you really want to keep him, and you're going to think that's going to be on a lesser deal where he is 34 years old. However, with the negotiations and extension talks with the Chicago Bulls, talks have kind of stopped because DeMar thinks that he's worth more than what the Bulls are willing to give him. We still don't know the exact number there, though, so I'm hoping that at the very least the Bulls can get value for him now if they can't come to an agreement on the extension terms very soon. Next player we saw on this was Chicago Bulls guard Alex Caruso. Caruso's per 36-minute stats are solid, 15 points per game, while shooting 52% from the field and 44 on three-pointers, plus 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block a game. He provides an impact defensively, with the Bulls allowing just 109.8 points per 100 possessions when he is on the court. Caruso's in the third season of a 4-year, $36.9 million contract, a valuable deal. So that contract's one of the best in the league, if not the best value in the league. When you come to think, he's making as much as some guys that don't even hardly play, and he's such a valuable player on the defensive end. The Bulls management has come out and said that Caruso would not be dealt almost under any circumstances, but if the right trade was there and they had to add him in and it could really make this team a whole lot better, then I think they might just have to pounce at that. However, I would not just move Caruso for anything. It would have to be a very high value right now. Next player we saw was Chicago Bulls center Nikola Vucevic. The Bulls signed Nikola Vucevic to a 3-year, $60 million deal in the offseason. So it's not an onerous deal, and a team would have Vucevic for 2 more seasons after this one. Though this isn't his best scoring season at 17 points per game on 45% from the field and 28 on 3, Vucevic does provide offense. And that's easy enough to see with him out of the lineup right now. The Bulls have most definitely struggled. It's really easy when he's out there on offense, just allowing the center to get out of the paint, have to chase him out there. Even if he isn't hitting his shots on a consistent rate this year, he is still a threat because on any given night, he can go out there and knock down some perimeter shots, and that adds a lot of value to him on the offensive end. To go along with his playmaking, which isn't talked about enough, he does get a good few assists for a big, and seems to have a good feel for the open floor and cutters running behind him. Just not utilized enough in that aspect, in my opinion. Next player we saw was Cleveland Cavaliers guard Donovan Mitchell. If the Cavs decide to trade all-star guard Donovan Mitchell, it will be a major move for the Cavs and the team acquiring him. Perhaps Brooklyn, New York, or Miami, the Heat have been looking for a combo guard and have long had their eyes on Mitchell. The Cavs traded for Mitchell with the hopes he would resign with them, but he has not signed an extension. He is under contract for 2024-25 at $34.8 million and has a player option in 2025-26, allowing him to become a free agent in the summer of 2025 if he chooses to do so. That's another player that has been mentioned for the Bulls because a lot of people think that the Bulls are going for a rebuild. The head office has actually been kind of up and down on that, but it seems as if the way that we've looked at them over the past few seasons, that they don't want to go for a rebuild. It seems like the team right now doesn't want to have to do that. It seems like they want to just retool and try to build some more. It may be a stubborn take from the front office, but if that's the route they want to go, Donovan Mitchell could be a good player to try to acquire. That would be where I would think Alex Caruso would have to be used for the value of Mitchell. If you were to use Lavine and Caruso, some other things in there on maybe either side or just one side, and I think we could land at Donovan Mitchell. Does that make the team better? I'm not so sure, but it just might. It might be the move that they want to do, so that would be the value there. Would I make it personally? No, but he is a very good player in this league, a top talent, and that's somebody to look at for sure. Next player we saw was Washington Wizards forward Kyle Kuzma. The Wizards are in the initial stages of what looks like a long but deliberate rebuild. It's unlikely many players on the roster now will be on the roster in 2-3 seasons. Kyle Kuzma's championship with 2010 Lakers, that's not accurate, and I'm going to stop him right there now. It was the 2020 bubble, not the 2010 Lakers, and is averaging a career-high 23 points and shooting a career-best 47% from the field, while getting 6 rebounds and 4 assists per game. He's in the first season of a 4-year, $90 million contract. So, some things to talk about there. Kuzma obviously won that title in the bubble in 2020. It wasn't in 2010. He wasn't even in the league, not even really high school for that matter, in 2010. And he was actually picked by the Brooklyn Nets and then traded for Brook Lopez, that whole thing. He was with the Brook Lopez trade there where D'Lo went over to the Nets, and that happened on draft night. I believe Kuzma was the 30th pick in the draft year that he was drafted. But Kuzma, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. Sometimes he's okay on defense. Sometimes he's a good ball handler. Sometimes he can score the ball. Sometimes he can shoot the ball really well. Sometimes he's really good at driving. It really all depends with him. He's not a master at anything. He's a jack of all trades, master at none, 6'9" guy that can play the 3 or the 4. That's what you're getting there. It's kind of up in the air what the value I believe would be on him with that. And I don't really want to put a value on him right now because I feel like I would definitely be underestimating the value because I don't really know what he excels at that great. It's just he's okay at everything, which is how I feel about Kyle Kuzma. Next player we saw was Washington Wizards guard Jordan Poole. For the right team in the right situation, Jordan Poole can be a valuable contributor. His 41% shooting from the field, 31 on threes, and uninspired play is not compelling teams to call the Wizards give up significant assets. Very true. Jordan Poole, still pretty young, has that championship resume with the Golden State Warriors. However, I do believe the year before this year, last year when he was on the Warriors, of course, putting up 20 a game, it was one of the worst 20 points per game I've seen. If anybody looks at value over replacement player, the VORP, you can actually see that he's hovering right around 0, although he's putting up 20 points per game. That's hardly ever happened in NBA history, and usually when it does, it kind of cites that a player isn't contributing to winning whatsoever, and he's just out there chucking up shots. And doing that on a solid team is not a good look, and now he's doing it on a really bad team and shooting even worse. Was it the players around him on Golden State? I'd like to think yes. Next player that we were looking at is Washington Wizards guard Tyus Jones. In the final year of a 2-year, $29 million contract, Tyus Jones is putting together a solid season. 12.6 points and about 6 assists per game, and shooting 54% from the field and 43 on threes. A team looking for depth, the point guard will do well by acquiring Jones. So he's about the same player as he was last year. He never turns the ball over. That's who he's known as. He's not a great defender, but he is still a solid backup in the league. The problem is he's starting and still putting up the same numbers as if he was a backup. He would be a good option to get off the bench. What the value would be in return for him, I'm not sure, but maybe he can make a push on a different team. I think out of the 3 players just mentioned, he would be the player that the Bulls should go for the most, although we could use some size in Kuzma, so in terms of team needs, a straight up, this is the only player we're acquiring, I would go after Kuzma, but if we're able to make other moves and move on from different players, then maybe Tyus Jones could be the right backup point guard for us, depending on the value, of course. Next player we looked at was Charlotte Hornets forward Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward is sidelined with a strained left calf and is out for at least 8 more days. But with Charlotte struggling and Hayward in the final season of his 4-year, $120 million contract, he could be on his way to a playoff team seeking depth. He averages 14.5 points, about 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and shoots 47 from the field and 36 from 3. Those are all very solid numbers, but with his advanced age and the injuries just coming and coming and coming, it doesn't make any sense for a team to put a lot of value into him, and I don't know if he'd be the right fit on the Chicago Bulls unless we were looking to literally rebuild, and I don't know why Gordon Hayward would want to be in that situation. I talked about the Bulls acquiring him before when I heard that he might be available in order for Lavine to go to Charlotte, but that would require us to get Terry Rozier or maybe some other young assets as well. It wouldn't just be a one-for-one trade, as Gordon Hayward would have to almost be a throw-in and just a veteran presence. He wouldn't be a big factor to the Chicago Bulls right now, as I think that wouldn't be the right direction to go with his injury history and his age. The next player we looked at was Atlanta Hawks guard DeJounte Murray. He has a 4-year, $114 million extension that begins next season. And while Atlanta thought Murray and Trae Young could be its backcourt for years to come, it may be willing to listen to offers from Murray. He averages 21 points and is shooting 38% on threes, his highest percentage since shooting 39% on just 0.6 attempts per game in his rookie season in 2016-17. So it's no secret there that DeJounte Murray has been shooting lights out of the ball. He's actually been a better shooter than Trae Young for the most part, although Trae's starting to pick it up again. Trae's a guy that shoots a lot of desperation or deep three-pointers, and whether you like that or not, he shoots around 35% of them for his career. It's not a high percentage, but people say where he's shooting them so deep, it's harder to guard, and maybe it's a solid shot where he's taking about 8 or 10 a game. It's kind of up and down how I feel about that, but it's not to say that DeJounte Murray is a very good three-point shooter, takes really good attempts, is a solid defender, and has kind of digressed in that area, but could still be solid given on a different team like the Bulls. If they were in a defensive-minded system like them with the hustle, I believe DeJounte Murray would fit in just fine. Still a very solid scorer, an okay playmaker. He could definitely fit into the Bulls roster. If there were Lavine, DeJounte Murray, plus whatever it would have to be trade, I think that would be very solid for the Bulls no matter which direction they're going in, because it doesn't look like DeJounte Murray wants to stay in Atlanta, and you heard what he said about Tony Parker, and if you hadn't, look up for that. He wanted him to mentor him more in San Antonio. So DeJounte Murray, maybe not the nicest guy behind the scenes, but maybe you can turn things around with the Bulls, and all I care about is on-court play when it comes to that. As long as it's not making the other players pissed at him, it doesn't matter. We'll go on to the next player there today, and that is Detroit Pistons forward Bojan Bogdanovic. Bojan Bogdanovic has played in just 14 games since returning from a strained right calf. He averages 19 points and is shooting 45% from the field and 38% on three-pointers. For a team looking for a three-point shooter, Bogdanovic and his contract are attractive. He's due $19 million next season, but just $2 million of it is guaranteed. He's another guy that if the Bulls were looking to do just a rebuild, Bojan obviously doesn't seem like he minds losing, being on the Pistons, of course, and he could be a good guy to come in, just fun, put up some points, and maybe be a veteran to the younger guys. Not sure how that's working over in Detroit, however, so he wouldn't be the first guy I'd look at for something like that, or a guy to look at really at all. His defense is about the worst in the league this year, and it's not really that great on offense consistently for you to be like, oh, I'm going to get Bojan to be a top scorer and we can make the playoffs, or even like the third or fourth option. I'd be a bit wary of that, and I don't know how much I would trust it, so I wouldn't be wanting to target him if I were the Bulls. Next thing we saw was Portland Trailblazers forward Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant wanted a team where he could showcase his offensive skills, and he has accomplished that with the Blazers. This season, he's averaging career highs in points at 22 and three-point shooting at 47%, and is shooting better than 80% from the foul line for the fourth consecutive season. In the offseason, Grant signed a 5-year, $160 million contract, and a team has his rights through 2026-27. He has a player option for the 2027-28 season. I think what they were trying to say there was that the team, being the Portland Trailblazers, has its right until the 2027-28 season. But Jeremy Grant, a very solid guy as well. He's been linked to the Bulls in the past few seasons in trade rumors, and he'd be a guy that I'd really want to have on the team. I think he's a great basketball player, very multifaceted, really good at a lot of different things. I really like Jeremy Grant. If we were able to get him in here, that would definitely be worth it and could definitely help out this team. Right now, he's the top or second best guy on Portland. I just think it's a really bad system for him. You saw how he flourished as like the third or fourth guy on the Denver Nuggets, and I think right now his offense is even better. He could be the second or third option on a good team, and he could be great for the Chicago Bulls, so I like that a lot. Next player that we're looking at is Toronto Raptors forward Pascal Siakam. So yes, we've talked about him a good bit, but one thing that I want to say is I don't think the Raptors are going to make a move on Pascal just yet, and I don't think they're going to be as aggressive at shopping him after they just made a move with OG Anunoby. I think that was plan A, Pascal was plan B, and now they got RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley in there, and I think they're going to see how that works, because so far over the past two games, they've won both of them. They look solid in those contests. And for sure, I think it's looking like a better fit there in Toronto. Whether they move on from Pascal is a little bit unknown, but I'd say it's not as much of a guarantee as some of the other guys that we've listed so far. What they had to say on him was that he's turned into a two-time All-Star and two-time All-NBA selection with the Raptors. He's in the final season of his 4-year, $136.9 million contract and is seeking one more big deal. That leaves Toronto with a decision to make: trade him now or get value in return, or lose him in free agency for little or nothing. Siakam at 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 52% shooting, despite 29% from 3, is the kind of two-way player who can help a contender. And I'd have to agree. I mean, Pascal's been a great player in the NBA, able to do a little bit of everything. His off-the-dribble work is really just spins to the rim, attacks at the rim. He's not really an off-the-dribble shooter guy. He's done it occasionally, but that's not really his game. That's where he struggles the most. He's better with playmakers around him, and that really has showed this season as three-point shooting without Fred VanVleet on the team. Now, the last guy that we have to talk about today is none other than Utah Jazz forward center Lauri Markkanen. So yes, an all-star for the first time last season, and he's having another strong season, but a slow start has the Jazz at 15-19, which prompts the prospect of the Jazz moving him for a haul in return. Similar to what they got for Rudy Gobert when they traded him to Minnesota. However, Markkanen likes playing for the Jazz and isn't a free agent until 2025. A Markkanen trade seems unlikely, though not impossible. And I would have to agree. We've seen stranger things happen. If Lowry isn't happy in Utah, I could definitely see him move to a contender. However, the Chicago Bulls move, not very likely. He didn't like how things ended off there, but it's good to note that we do have a little bit of a different ownership now. Would he feel a little bit more comfortable with Arturas than he did before with Garpax? Probably so. He might be able to indulge that a little bit more, and if he was traded back, I'd welcome him back with open arms, that's for sure. He is a great player in the league right now, has really shown that, and can be the best player on the team, I think, for sure, on a playoff roster. The next player that we got to see here is Philadelphia 76ers forward Tobias Harris. So, this isn't the first time Tobias Harris' name has popped up in trade deadline chatter, and the strong veteran is having another solid season at 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists and a steal per game, and shooting a career-best 51% from the field. In the end, it may just make sense for the Sixers to keep Harris, whose contract expires after the season. Probably so. I mean, it doesn't seem like the Philadelphia 76ers have many options right now with all the trades they've made, like the James Harden. They don't have as much going for them right now, but maybe they could get a player for Tobias. I don't know. He's on a big contract right now, but like they said, it ends at the end of the season. Is a team going to want to take on Tobias Harris? Probably not. I don't really see many people lined up to look to get him. It seems like he's kind of stuck in Philly right now, unless he was the add-in piece for another trade. But I feel like that trade is already there and done when it came to James Harden. And I think they're just going to keep on to him right now, and I can't see the Bulls pursuing him either. He would be a good fit on the Bulls, but I just don't think that's the player that they're going to go off to, which is why I wanted to mention him for sure. The next player that we have to talk about is Charlotte Hornets guard Terry Rozier. I talked about him a little bit when we went over Gordon Hayward and said that he would have to be added in if it was for Zach Lavine. Terry Rozier is putting up points at 24 a game on 47% shooting, and he's under contract through 2025-26, giving a team acquiring him security against the assets they give up in a potential trade for Rozier. And that's fair to mention there for sure. Terry Rozier, very good scoring guard. It's just he's a bit small. He always plays the 1 or the 2. They played him a lot at the 2, which I think is out of position because he seemed like a solid playmaker at the 1. Known as Scary Terry, he is not afraid to take big shots, and that's been proven throughout his whole career. I think he is another great player that if we were looking to shake things up in the backcourt positions, I think he would be a very solid guy to bring in. Would it stunt Kobe's growth? Maybe so. That's what I'd be a little worried about. But it might even just work out if we had Terry at the 1, Kobe at the 2, and Kobe able to take more shots off the catch as opposed to creating some more for himself. That would be something to look into, although not as high on the radar as some of the other trades that we've gone over. The next guy that we're going to talk about is Charlotte Hornets forward Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges becomes a free agent after the season, and because he signed his qualifying offer, he can veto any trade. Since returning from a suspension related to a domestic violence plea, Bridges averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, and a steal. So nobody's ever questions Miles Bridges' play on the court. It's always been the off-court thing, the domestic violence. I mean, there was issues with a pool ball and a car. I'm not really sure what's going on with him outside of basketball, but he's a very good basketball player. I wouldn't want that kind of drama on my team, however. So at all causes, if I were the Chicago Bulls, stay away from Miles Bridges. I would not want to be anywhere near him. I think he brings too much drama to the team, and you want to leave that outside of basketball. This has been your host, Joey Mercer. I hope you enjoyed the longer episode there today, as we had a lot of things to talk about when it comes to trades. I hope you can find that all these related to the Bulls, because I feel like a lot of these guys, the Bulls could actually sneakily go out and acquire at lower value if teams aren't so happy with them or the players themselves. Stranger things have happened in the NBA, so you never know what will happen. But I do hope you enjoyed the video, so make sure to go down below, hit the like button, comment on the video. I want to hear from all you guys your takes on all these trade possibilities. I want to hear some mock trades from you guys if you'd like. And yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.